Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining the Spiritist Talk series promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm very happy to host this talk by Brian Vosberg, who will be leading our live with the theme Corporeal Assistance. Let's all give Brian a very warm welcome, who will be leading our live and but please allow me to introduce him before he starts his presentation. Brian Vosberg has been a Spiritist speaker and presenter since 2005, having spoken at centers in New Jersey, New York, and Florida, as well as past Spiritist symposiums. Brian actively advocates living the principles of the doctrine and living a moral life. Professionally, he is a licensed professional civil engineer, working as a project engineer overseeing state roadway construction projects in the Tampa, Sarasota area of Florida. Please take this opportunity to send your questions during the presentation using the chat window. Brian has reserved time to address your comments and questions once he concludes his presentation. And now, Brian Vosberg.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this talk. In this way, I was going to talk about corporeal assistance. And this one was an interesting one because I was sitting here thinking, like, we talk about within Spiritism, we hear a lot of influences of the spirits around us, inspiring us, helping us with our day-to-day lives, and how they can promote or hurt, in some instances, our progress forward. So I sat there and said, like, well, what about us, humanity, the people that are here incarnated at the moment? Why are we not helping each other out? And that was one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about. We see this a lot in public culture. I've got here the Moana, where you have Maui and Moana together. You got Harry Potter with Hermione and Ron. You got Frodo, Sam, and Gollum. And then I even had to throw in here the Chosen. So we see in here many, many stories, popular stories in our lives that go around and help us and inspire us with different people that help us to accomplish our tasks. And these people don't have to be identical to us or the same as us. In fact, in many cases, like I'll use the Harry Potter thing with Hermione and Ron, they each have different characteristics, but because they work so well together, they lift each other up. And that was where they kind of got the idea for this topic of this talk, is we are talking together. We're helping each other out despite our differences, despite our backgrounds, our cultures, whatever it is. We can work together to elevate each other up and help each other live a better life as decreed by God in the laws of progress. When we go into the Spirits book, it was easier to find stuff here because it specifically calls out individual questions. 768, people obey personal sentiment, or is there a wider providential purpose involved? It says, no, we cannot do so alone. The Spirits specifically say we do not do this as a one-on-one person. There may be parts of our lives that we do individually, but for the most part of our lives, we're doing this together, and we need that contact with others. We need to be able to help each other ensure that our own welfare and progress is assured through helping others as well as ourselves. There is a phrase that I've heard about before, when it's like, when you have a city, one person bakes the bread, one person be the banker, one person is the police officer, so on and so forth, so that each person takes on a role that benefits the entire community. And this is going into the similar way with the Spirits book. And we see this continue on in question 779. Do humans draw from within themselves the power to progress, or is yet progress nothing more than the result of education? It's through societal contact that the most advanced help the others progress. So we see the most when we help each other out. And we definitely do see this, because when we see these with the operations, recently we had the LA wildfires, where we saw people come out of to help the people that had lost their homes, giving diapers for children, clothing, even offering to pay some expenses to help these people back on their feet that lost everything in those wildfires. So we start to see that people do have the capacity to reach out and help each other, but it seems to be right now limited on only certain times, like in times of crisis. Now, we do see some people that will come above and beyond, and they help people all the time. And history is replete with this. We see this with Mother Teresa and some of these others that would go through and help. Even the inspiration for St. Nicholas, Chris Santa Claus to the young ones out there, came from a person that wanted to go out there and help. Even recently, we had Valentine's Day. St. Valentine would go around and help people to help find love and things of these natures. So we see history find people and promote them for reaching out and helping society, helping people along. And we are told to do that as well internally through the Bible, through God. Go and sin no more. Is Jesus' phrase. We need to be mindful of our actions so that we can be better human beings. But at the same time, we also need to be out there to help those who are struggling along the path. No matter their ailment, no matter whatever is bothering them, hopefully there's something we can do to give them that hand up that pulls them up just that little bit higher up the slope of progress. We don't see people that climb Mount Everest climb solo. They usually go as a team so that they can rely on each other and help each other out. And this is the same thing for us within our spiritual journey as we climb the spiritual mountain, as it were. We're trying to elevate ourselves up. And this is where I kept saying with this corporeal assistance, we need other people beside us to help us to inspire. I was recently at an event down in Miami where I got to see the talented young artist Akiane Kamarick, I believe I'm saying her name right, where she was painting some wonderful paintings, and some of her paintings are truly awe-inspiring. And it's still that looking at those gave me a sense of serenity and a sense of calm. And it also showed me some things of saying like, hey, here's this beautiful young artist with these absolutely amazing pictures that are mind-blowing in themselves. And she's showing us that by where she paints little things within her pictures that tie into a whole, tie into the story, that links everything together, is truly awe-inspiring and wondering. So that's tying us together. Again, the corporeal assistance. We're linked together, all of us. For better, for worse, we are trying to elevate ourselves. And usually those that are, as I say, the worst, they're the ones that we need to help the most. They're the ones that are struggling the most, and we try to lift them up. As a civil engineer, the biggest rule I have when I'm building sidewalks, roadways, and everything else out there is the ADA compliance for the American Disabilities Act. And so we are trying to be mindful of those that maybe can't walk, blind, something like this, so that they can safely walk down the street without hurting themselves. We're trying to be a corporeal assistant to them so that they can live their life fully with as much joy, happiness, and progress that we can offer them. We are helping them so that they can fulfill their wants, wishes, dreams, and desires. Going back to the Spirit's book here, does moral progress always follow intellectual progress? Now, this one's a little bit off the beaten path, but it still proves a point. Because as we're progressing intellectually and morals chasing up behind it, how do we know that there's the gap? More often than not, it is in the moral pains of life. We learn something new, and it's the moral pains that it causes from a decision, a choice, a new invention, something that goes out there that it changes the moral dynamics. Recently, with the COVID pandemic that we had in 2020, there was a moment there where everything paused. And we sat there and we put all our brains to coming up with a vaccine for this virus. And meanwhile, we're coming up with brainstorming all these different ideas, some good, some bad, wearing masks, social distancing, but when it came to it and we started seeing that people were hurting, people were suffering, not only were we trying to battle the virus, we came up with multiple suggestions and solutions on how we can connect to these people and get them the aid they need. This podcast is one of the examples of that, where so much emphasis was put into bringing Zoom technologies to help bring people closer together, no matter how far apart they actually are. So that was a wonderful thing for them, and that we've benefited. But it took a little bit of pain to sit there and, hey, we've got things we got to do. And as a consequence, we took some of our intellectuals, shifted it over, and lifted up our moral progress together, working together as a team. And this is, again, critical because we do need to be reliant on each other and on our different, I don't want to say quirks, but characteristics, so that we are being mindful and looking at what people are doing, what can they offer, where are their faults, and is there ways that we together can lift those faults up. Moving over to the Gospel according to Spiritism, my favorite book in the series, but at the same time, it's a little bit hard researching through it because so much is contained throughout that entire book. So this is from Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 9. Or I'm sorry, chapter 11, item 9. And I'm just going to read the bold topics here. Your love is confined to a closed circle of family and friends. Nobody else matters to you. You must progressively arrive at loving all your brothers and sisters indiscriminately. Mutual love harmonizes and guides the advanced spirits. So let's break this down into the 3 parts. We all know that we have love in our hearts. And we have love for those that are the closest to us, our family, our friends, loved ones. That's easy. That's the easiest thing to do. But it's harder when we start realizing that we're needing to treat everyone around us as brothers and sisters. You can look in the news and you can see that that's not happening. But we do need to be mindful of that. And we need to start promoting that. Be mindful and keep into the back of our minds that these people are children of God as well. They are also destined to be great. They're destined to be perfect as well. In this lifetime, probably not for any of us. But that does not stop them from progressing and that putting that one step forward. We need to keep progressing forward. And if we can be that hand that helps them, says, let me get you over this obstacle so that you can keep moving forward, good on you. And that's important to realize. Because again, we're treating each other as brothers and sisters, and it goes right to that 3rd point here, where mutual love harmonizes and guides the advanced spirits. If we're supposed to be growing into a world of regeneration, we need to start being mindful that we need to start thinking bigger. We need to start thinking as these advanced spirits. We can't keep at the same level we have been. Just like a child cannot keep at an elementary school when they are progressing up into middle or high school. They have to grow up, they have to be mindful, and they have to take on the mindset. Even for someone that's graduating high school, going into college, it's a change in mindset. They graduate college and go into the work world. It's a change of mindset. We are progressing into this new world of regeneration. And the world's changing whether we want to or not. And it's beneficial for us to To quote some of those famous surfers, catch the wave. It's a lot easier to catch the wave than try to swim against it. So we're going to use this opportunity to say, okay, we've been given help. We've been given topics on how we can promote ourselves and help get to that next level. It takes work. It takes effort. Nothing easy or nothing that's worth doing is easy. My apologies there. We are trying to grow. How do you grow? Discipline, learning, education, and process. We were talking before this podcast started. We were talking about the military. To create a soldier, a person has to go through basic training. And that basic training is not one day. It's not 1 hour. It's months. A dedicated time frame, several months. And they can't do anything else. They're focusing only on becoming the best soldier they can be. Same for anyone that goes to college. 4 years, 8 years that they are in college. The focus is on honing their skills to do that chosen profession, that degree, to the best of their abilities. And during that time, they are learning specific traits. And just like with college, again, they're learning one specific profession. We need multiple. We need assistance. We need each other. So let's go forth and look for ways that we can be assistants to each other. It's not hard. I mean, we have groups that will go out, do fraternal assistance, help the homeless, go to nursing homes just to cheer them up, things like this. We have wonderful opportunities to improve life around us. It doesn't have to be something like have to create the newest invention. It can be something more than just helping a person cross the street. Going on with the gospel, now in number 14 of the same chapter, love one another as children of the same Father. God wills for everyone to be equal. Again, we are destined to be on a path to be great. We are destined to hit that top of that mountain. How we get there, when we get there, is our choosing. But we will get there. And we can always do this better when we have, as I said before with Mount Everest, we got a team that we can rely on, support each other. When one person's feeling bad, we got someone else that can cheer them up or give them the medicine they need to keep on going. That's the same for us spiritually as well. We should be focusing in on how to bolster ourselves up, to improve, as I said in a few slides prior, improve that moral side of the balance. As we improve intellectually, let's start improving the moral side. So let's start working that out and saying, how can we improve things morally without being in a crisis? Because this is another one. Because like as I mentioned before, when we were in crisis, then the charity comes out big tenfold. But we should be doing this charity all the time so that no matter the crisis, a person is helped. And that is something we'll have to continue to work on, improve as we go on. But then again, we're destined to be a world of regeneration. We're well on our way. So we need to, again, think of ourselves as advanced beings. Or even take into Jesus's famous line, love your neighbors as yourself. What would you love your neighbors to do for you in a time of crisis? Would you want them to be able to help you out in a small measure? If so, then you need to also be able to help them out in a similar measure. I'm going to, and then on the same slide here, God allows great criminals to dwell amongst you to serve you as a lesson. When humans have been led to the true laws of God, all impure and rebellious spirits will be relegated to lower worlds according to their inclinations. Like I said, we're on our way to a world of regeneration. And we do have people around us that are, to use, as I said before, for better or for worse. These are the people that are for the worse. And they're the ones that are, they're fighting. They're swimming against the current. They're being dragged, kicking and screaming along. And they're not ready to maybe make this next step. But that does not stop us from trying. Sometimes it's that little moment, that little break that helps them get over an obstacle. And that an obstacle that was daunting for them. But by us helping them, they were able to cross over that obstacle. And he says, you know what? I learned from my mistake. What you just did was what I needed to finally understand what I need to be doing. And then you would possibly have a reformed criminal. You would have a person that would sit there and say they had their Damascus moment, or they come to Jesus moment, where they sit there and they come back and they say, like, you know what? I did wrong. I was bad. I'm going to pursue forward. We see this with the Apostle Paul and what his did in the Bible, from persecuting the Jews, or persecuting Christians, to turning around and being their biggest advocate and supporter and helping and spreading the message of Christianity throughout the world at that time. And he humbleized himself. He realized he did wrong. So the point too, I think most of his apostles was like, he's usually like saying where he's not worthy. He's not worthy of this mission, but he's still doing it anyway because he realizes the importance of it. So that's just an example of the person that needed help over an obstacle. And when they got it, it changed their life forever. We all can probably have that moment in our life. And it may not be something as dramatic as that. It could be finding the right spouse. It could be having a child. It could even be something like getting a puppy and realizing the responsibilities of a puppy changes your mindset, your life, to the point that you do improve. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be grand. It can be small. And no matter what, that small choice may have a big impact. Truly moral persons practice the law of justice, love, and charity in their greatest purity. And I'll go in with the underlined portion here. They ask themselves if they have violated this law, if they have done any evil, if they have done all the good they could, and if they have willingly disregarded any opportunity to be useful. If anyone might have a complaint about them, and finally, if they have done unto others everything they would like to have done unto themselves. This goes kind of like into Spirit's book 996, which I believe is the St. Augustine one, where it says, like, know thyself. And he says, hey, do this at the end of the day. And he goes right into the same thing. And it does force us to do that self-reflection. And it helps when you do that self-reflection. Again, going back to that topic with the intellectual and the moral sides. When you make an advancement and then you go sit back and reflect, is this thing good? Then you start elevating the moral side. And you start thinking about the morality of it, the choices. Then you can go in and sit there and say this. And that's one of those things that's very, very important, because there is things that we get there where it's like, is this too dangerous? Is this something that could be more harmful than good? And if it is, should we pursue this or let this one go and focus in on things that make us better? That's something that's been challenging humanity for time immaterial. And we're seeing improvement with this. We're taking the time to sit back and think, is this good? Is this good for the planet? Is this good for humanity? Is this good for, input your own blank space there? When you start seeing these things, like when they're taking things beyond themselves into account, they're improving themselves morally. And they're being reflective of their actions and how they help. Their first impulse is to think of others before thinking of themselves, and to attend their own interest of others before their own. So I always love reading this one, just out, because again, it's talking about people that are being helpful. They're going out. They're being charitable. When somebody's in need, they're the first ones to take the cloak off their back, to give their own resources to help them out that have none. While it may be detrimental to themselves in the short term, it may be beneficial in the long term. And in fact, it's definitely helpful in the long term. We maybe think in our own lifetime, but then as Spiritism has taught us, one lifetime is a blink of an eye compared to eternity. So what's to say helping this other person doesn't help us deep into eternity? So I've focused mostly on the Spirit's book and the gospel, the main core of the doctrine. But do we see this in other literature? And I'm going to stick to just the Spiritist literature here. One of the ones I just recently read was Renunciation. And that was one where you had a spirit, Alcyone, come back, reincarnate, and try to help, which was originally meant to be for one person, a person that she loved, but she had elevated herself and he had remained behind. She had come back to try to help elevate him, try to help him complete his challenge, his purpose for this life that he was needing. He was devoting himself to Christ. He needed to live as a person, as a faithful member of Christ, of the priesthood. So she comes through this life. But in the course of reading that book, one of the most powerful things happens is she is such a bright light. She is someone that helps so many people around her that her mother comes to love her, her sister, her half-sister. It's like she's helping all these people all around her. Even Father Damiano, which I believe is the reincarnation of Emmanuel in this time frame, is one of those things that these wonderful things where it's sitting here talking about it and like, oh, wow, this one person, just through her existence, through her discussion, through her love, through her charity, is uplifting everyone around her, well beyond what was expected at the time. Because this was taking place before even the Spirit's book was even written. So here she's talking to these people about lofty spiritual values and lifting up her community, those that knew her, anyone that she encountered was lifted up by her radiance, by her inner beauty. Her spiritual purity began to lift up everyone around her. That is one example in a corporeal assistance, where one person goes around and makes all the people around her better. It lifts them all up just by her presence. I also mentioned the Bible because we do see that's replete there, Old Testament and New Testament. We see examples of people that were maybe not the best characters in the world be lifted up to having some of the most important missions of all. Which is a good thing for us because it's sitting here like, and many times we sit there and say, like, just like Paul, we sit there and think, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. But we are. And I wanted to reemphasize that one a lot. We are important enough to do that which we need to do. We are important enough to do the mission that God has put forth for us, which is to progress, to be perfect over time. Again, not in one day, not in an hour. It's not even going to take a lifetime. This is something that we, as within the doctrine, we're saying it's going to take progressive lifetimes to improve. But that doesn't mean just lay low on this one and don't do anything. No, keep progressing, keep working towards it. And guess what? Those you help along the way will be the ones that may help you in the future. So it comes back. Oops, I went the wrong way. As Brad mentioned in my introduction, I do like to try to live the doctrine. And you might have seen it through the stuff I brought up so far in this lecture so far. But one of the things I did want to bring to your attention to you is we need to bring this back into our daily lives. Things that we see, things that we read. How do we bring this topic? How can we be of assistance to those around us? It could be something as simple as helping to pay food for a struggling mother with her children. It could be, as I mentioned before, going out helping the homeless, going out and cheering up people at the nursing homes. How many of them go through days, weeks, with no one coming to visit them? And so that just having a new face lifts their spirits, makes them better. Sometimes going down, playing a game of cards, or just any board game, anything, to just spend time with another person. I know I've seen it around on the internet a little bit about a story of a young lady in high school that she was about to commit suicide. She was in her locker and everything else, and she was thinking nothing goes right in my life and everything else. And the books spill out of her locker. And some boy just comes by, sees that she's struggling, helping. He helps pick her up, puts the books back in her locker, and helps her. And asks her, "Are you okay?" She didn't say anything. But that was the spark of hope that she said that life would be okay. And she did not commit suicide that day. Because all of a sudden she saw something good. Something happened to her that was beneficial to her, that lifted her spirits up. And that was enough. Again, it doesn't have to be big. It could be the smallest of things that will help a person immensely. So with that, I'm going to ask for Brad to come back in, and let's start going over some of these questions that we've received.
Thank you ever so much, Brian, for very wonderful insights and reflections you provided us today. Everyone, please stay with us for the Q&A session, which will start shortly after just a few announcements and some very interesting news. The 18th Spiritist Congress of Georgia is coming May 17th and May 18th in Mableton, Georgia. The conference, entitled Divine Justice, will be celebrating 160 years of the book Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec. And on September 20th, 2025, in Ann Arbor, Michigan, will be the 19th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. And so the title of the symposium will be Evolution of Consciousness, a Path Towards Enlightenment. There will be activities for kids and teens all day. Registrations open soon, so save the date and please join us. And be certain to check out the continuing podcast-like series, Psychology and Spirituality, A Bridge to a Better Life, based on the works by Joanna De Angelis. A new episode appears every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It is available on YouTube and Spotify. There is a new book, The Spiritist Review, 1865 by Allan Kardec. It is now available at the spiritistbooks.us store. Be certain to check it out. There is also a wonderful Spiritist app, Be My Hope, available from the App Store and Google Play. This app offers uplifting content in a collection of videos, daily messages, and audio materials. Please download it today. And there's now also available 7 free professionally recorded Spiritist audiobooks sponsored and produced by the Spiritist Society of the Carolinas. At your own pace, you can listen to Allan Kardec's foundational works on YouTube at Spiritist Society Carolinas. And lastly, but not least, on the screen you will note there is a QR code. If you want to help the USSF produce more publications and promote Spiritism to everyone, scan the QR code on screen for your donation. And thank you. Now, let's start addressing the comments or questions from the audience. There's still time to send in yours. So, from Andre Luis, according to Spiritism, how does corporeal assistance contribute to the moral progress of the soul, both for the one who gives and the one who receives?
I'm going to use an example I saw recently when I had a chance to watch the DeValdo movie, where, if anyone's had a chance to see that when it was free in January, DeValdo had an obsessing spirit that was trying to hurt him and make things worse, make his life worse. Because of in 600 years prior, he had sent someone, DeValdo, I guess, in that incarnation, asked this person to commit suicide. And so this spirit is trying to flip the script and have him do it. DeValdo had in turn advanced. So he was sitting there saying, so he had this one behind. And what ended up happening was a little girl was dropped at DeValdo's mansion of the way. And he accepted this little girl in and says, this will become my daughter. And I will treat her as a daughter. The spirit recognized that the spirit of that little girl was the spirit of his mother. And DeValdo just warmly accepted her in and became her loving father. That was the moment that broke this tension, that allowed this moral progress for this other spirit to sit there and say, you know what? I've held on to this grudge. I've held on to this anger for 600 years. And you are loving my mother without reservations, without no qualms whatsoever. You just immediately took her in. If you can do that, then I think that there's a chance that we can amend our past. And that is why I was using this as an example through that corporeal assistance. Even though this is spirit in a person, we see that again time and time again, where we will see a person helped, lifted up. It's like where it's like, hey, I paid it forward to someone. I personally did find someone's wallet that was lost. Saw the driver's license side, drove it, gave it to the person. They want to give me money. Says, no, just pay it forward. Because I had a person that had lost everything, all their money, credit cards, driver's license, all of it was in that wallet. And it just fell out of their pocket. And I returned it to them, so I made their life better in that instance. But what would have been the cost in the interim? They would have had nothing. No money, no nothing to do with. We could go on, but I think we should keep going with another question.
Thank you very much for that, Brian. From the United States Spiritist Federation, how do we know when to depend on ourselves and not overwork our spiritual support?
This is a good one, because you're right. The body needs rest. The soul needs rest. Even like this is using another book, a spiritist book we see with Andre Luis and Manuel Filomeno Miranda, that as spirits, they take time to recharge. They take time to meditate, and they take time to reflect. In fact, even in the gospel passage I had earlier, where it said you had to take that time to self-reflect. When you take that time to self-reflect, that's going into when to depend on ourselves and overwork. When you sit back, take some time, think about your day, reflect on it, and then see, like, are you overworked? Are you overstressed? And everything else. It gives you that self-reflection time to sit back and say, okay, maybe I did too much. Maybe I need to back off a little bit. Or it's like I need to, in order for me to help this other person, I have to make sure I'm in a position to help. So that may be where I'm going with this. And it does mean that we do have to take some time to reflect daily on our past, our immediate past, to see if that affects our future going forward.
Thank you. Very good thoughts, Brian. Again from Andre Luis. How does the Spiritist view of corporeal assistance differ from purely materialistic humanitarian aid, particularly regarding intention and spiritual consequences?
Ooh, that is almost going into the gospel chapter, don't let the right hand know what the left hand is doing. And because when you do, many times when they do a materialistic thing, that it's for pomp and circumstance. It's for, it's like, oh, look at me, I'm helping a person. And yes, you may be giving them aid for the moment, but it's not necessarily aid that benefits them for their lifetime. It does not have a lasting impression to it. Whereas something like saying like the Good Samaritan from the Bible, where it's like when the Samaritan finds this person that had been accosted on the street, not only does he pick him up, dust him up, help him, gets him over, he puts him over, puts him in the inn, and says, "Whatever expenses, I'll be back in a couple of weeks, and I will pay for." So it's not just a one and done thing. It's a continuous effort, checking in from time to time. And I think that's where we get with the intention and the spiritual consequences, because it doesn't, as I mentioned with the Devaldo line, it's not this life. It can be many, many lifetimes down the road.
Very good. Thank you. And from the United States Spiritist Federation, are there ways to help others, but give them the opportunity to help themselves?
This one I love because it's reflecting back when I was doing some studies on like the New Deal from the early 20th century, 1900s. One of the things they were talking about is giving people a skill, giving something that makes them marketable, something that they can own. Usually done with this phrase, the simple saying, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And that's where I'm thinking I was going with this. You could help someone for a day, but if you can take them aside and give them a skill, something that's meaningful to them, that's rewarding to them, that they can hold on to. That way it's something that's special to them. They'll hold on to it and take onto it and carry it. And that may be the strength that they need to go forth and be successful. Again, using Devaldo with his mansion on the way, those that come to him, people that are there, they work while even though everything's paid for, they live, they work there, they help, and it's like they're putting back into that which they get, and in return, those are skills that are greatly valued and used once they leave, once they're outside of that help. And that may be all it takes, is just taking someone on, giving them a job, teaching them something that they can use to improve themselves.
Good thoughts, good advice. Thank you. And how do reincarnation and the law of cause and effect, karma, influence spiritist approaches to providing corporeal help to those in need?
I think I touched on it a little bit with the Devaldo story, but it goes in, but it's not just limited to just Devaldo. When you, like it says, karma, for every good action comes back. For every bad action bad action comes back. That's kind of what we're saying here. But it doesn't reverberate in just one lifetime. It reverberates down multiple lifetimes. As I said with the Devaldo movie, that was conflict that went over 600 years. And we see this in a couple of the other series too, like even with 2,000 years ago and 50 years later for Emmanuel, where he abused his life as a senator 2,000 years ago. So in his next lifetime, he comes back, but he does not have the power, the prestige. He comes back as a servant, a Roman servant, elevated, very thoughtful, but he lost his power, his riches, and everything else in his next lifetime. So we do see these comic things going out in the past. And using that same example for the good, even though Publius Lentulus or Emmanuel did a lot of bad things wrong, he did do some things right. He did come to seeing what his wife was at the time found in Jesus when he was physically there, and realizing him after his crucifixion and coming to it and saying, like, this is the way we should be living. This is what I was looking for. And then when he comes into the next life as a servant, he has that knowledge built in, so that when he's walking around as a servant, he is a well-respected servant because he's going around and he's helping those around him. So it does show up in these future lives. And that's part of it too. Is sometimes too, we'll see this where when we said like the soulmate thing, where it's like, hey, this person, why I feel drawn to this person for some strange reason. And it may be that karmic connection from a past life coming through and saying, hey, there's a reason to help this person.
Good connection there. How can we engage others in a specified effort in a harmonizing way if there is resistance?
Ooh, this takes effort. This one takes time. And just even like I said with the Devaldo one, 600 years. But this is one of those things you have, if you're paying attention to a person that's resisting, they're covering a pain, they're covering a wound, they're covering something that's hurt them. And so they're being resistant, they're lashing out. But what is that? What was that pain? What was that hurt them? And that's the hard part to find out. That's where it's going to take effort and time to expose. Why is a person angry? Why is a person resistant? Why is a person what is it that scares them so much that they have to be resistant? They have to lash out. In many cases, that's where you will see there's your path forward. That's their objective that they can't get over. That's what they're hitting their wall on. And that's, if you can figure out identify specifically what it is and help them over that, there's your harmonizing way to find the resistance. It's not easy. It's going to take time. But again, like I said, everything else, all the most worthwhile things in your life will take time.
Truly so. Truly. Thank you. That's very helpful. From Yasko Otakawa. Hi, Brian. Great reminder. I feel it is easier to offer genuine assistance to those in poorer or more difficult conditions than us, and we lack of spontaneity to offer understanding or compassion to those in apparent better conditions or positions. How to better practice assistance to all.
This, for me at least, it's a personal one to me. I grew up with the Boy Scouts. And one of the big things that came into my life, it is one of the things they teach you as a tenderfoot, one of the earliest stages of a Boy Scout. Do a good turn daily. And that one I've still try to live by and follow to this day. So go around and help someone every day, whether it be something small, crossing the street, getting out of the way of a person in a wheelchair or something like this, helping someone with a door. It can, the needs are endless. Or it's saying like, hey, I see you're struggling here. Let me pay for some of your groceries. Let me give you $20 towards your grocery bill or something of this nature. We have multiple examples of this that's out there, but at least for me, it many times it's these little simple little sayings, do a good turn daily, that you just have to put on your heart and embrace and live, even if it's like, or like me, I take a dry erase marker and I write things on my bathroom mirror so that I read it every morning. When I get up in the morning, I read it. I'll read this message that I've written on the mirror. So it's like, and some of these things like, hey, make sure, are you doing this for yourself? Are you doing this for your children? Are you doing this for your, whatever it could be. But maybe it could be as simple as do a good turn daily.
Good thoughts, good advice, and very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And from TVCEI, International Spiritist Council,
Ooh.
Is there a way to know and understand the lesson God is presenting us with?
I would say it's kind of going back to what I was saying with the Gospels was sitting there saying, is to have that love, that charity, that going out there and being good, mindful of the sons. Because if you're loving yourself and you love all of God's creation, then you are starting to understand the lesson. And yes, there's things that challenge that, and that's the progress, that's the growth. When we see adversity, when we see people that would be an enemy, how do we love that enemy? How do we make that person our friend? As Jesus taught us many, many years ago, reach out and find ways to continue to reach out and pull us all together as a general family, the human family, as it were, not just separated by nationalities, by all these different divisions that are out there. Let's find a way to coalesce. It's one of the few things I always loved with the whenever I visit Brazil, and especially when it's like Carnival or festival time. It seems like everyone comes together to join in the festivities at that time frame, no matter who you are, where you're from, what your background is. We can all come together and enjoy a little samba and some fun in the sun. So
Good thoughts. Uh, Another question from TVCEI, International Spiritist Council. How can I deal with the feeling of guilt and not being able to help everyone?
if you're able to help one, that's a start. That's an accomplishment. Every journey begins with the first step. We cannot help everyone as much as we would want to. This is very, very important. This is why it's like that's why we have to accept the small victories too. We have to be mindful. It can't be these grand gestures. It can be small. It can be helping a family member. It can be helping a coworker, a friend, something like that. To start small. It does not have to be go with a bang first thing. Build yourself up. If you're not in a position to help everyone, can you help one? As I mentioned earlier, maybe it's something as simple as rescuing a dog, a cat from a rescue shelter, and just helping that could be the start of you growing and learning and how to be mindful and helpful to those around you.
Very good thoughts. Start small and be mindful.
Mm-hmm. And accept your victories. Whatever.
Yes, good thought. If suffering is part of spiritual growth in Spiritism, could too much corporeal assistance interfere with the Spirit's learning process?
That's a good one, because there's a difference here where I says help a person over an obstacle, not build a bridge that they can just take the easy path over it. It's like the obstacle's there in their path for a reason. You can give them the assistance on how to overcome it, and they need to be the ones that overcome it. And that's where I think this thing goes into where the too much corporeal assistance. It's one of the things for us parents that have our little children and everything else. It's we're kind of like dancing on this fine line. It's like, are they too young to understand how to do a certain activity, or are they old enough now to say, hey, I think you're responsible, that you can start doing more around the house. You can start learning anything else. Like my daughter, she's now enjoying that. I got a special knife that she just sits there and rocks it, but she's cutting tomatoes, she's cutting vegetables and everything else. And since she just has to rock it, she's not chop, 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 chop. It takes a little bit of pressure off me that she's not going to cut her finger off. But at least at the same time, she's learning that skill. So I'm giving her a chance to do a task without taking away, without like instead of still being somewhat secure, being safe about it. But then again, someday I have to teach her how to drive a car. So first now it's a knife. Later on, it's going to be a motor vehicle.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very, very much, Brian. Many thanks to everyone who watched today's talk live and those who have been following our weekly Spiritist Talk series. Next Saturday, April 19th, we will have Alba Morales speaking about pre-existence of the soul and pre-birth experiences. Brian, before we close the live, would you please offer a prayer?
Absolutely. Dear God, wonderful Master, mentors of us all, watch over us now as we part company, no matter where we are, when we are, so that we may go forth from here, render assistance to those around us that are in need, from the small to the large. Let us find ways that we can lift each other else up. We may benefit each other, make friends of us all, so we may pursue forth and go and climb that wonderful ladder of progress that brings us to your wondrous light and love. Continue to inspire us and shine down that light so we may find that path ever so more easily to get us to you that much faster. Amen.